First of all, I'm sorry I didn't cover an episode of Gotham last week. Things have been a little hectic. But I'm going to make amends for that by reviewing both last week's episode and this week's episode. Now, I apologize if I sometimes mix up a detail or two, or maybe talk about the episodes as sort of one big mesh of stories. But the thing the thing is that the pattern on Gotham in several storylines is becoming very predictable and very noticeable. Now, I'll explain more about that in a second, but really the first episode dealt was I think the stronger one. It dealt with the electrocutioner from the Arkham episode coming to the precinct since Gordon figured out his target was Maroni, so he brought Maroni to the precinct under the guise of witness protection so that Maroni could essentially act as bait. So there's that. While at the same time, Penguin makes his move on Fish, while at the same time Fish prepares to make her move on Falcone, and it all erupts into something bad happening to Fish, which, hey, I'm on board with. So, the first episode, well, I think the villain of the Electrocutioner, who I mentioned had potential in the Arkham episode, he was a little wasted. He was kind of underdeveloped. We never really knew, well, we were told why he wanted to kill Maroni, but again, this didn't really get as much development as I think was needed, and this may have something to do with the fact that this season was originally 16 or 18 episodes long, and it was only extended to 22 after it started airing, so they may have had to conceive these episodes as the way they conceive these episodes and these storylines. They may have had to pack a lot into one or two episodes or several episodes, as we've learned. But what I mean when I say that the Electrocutioner and his conflict with Gordon and by extension the entire precinct is that most of the time, or at least the majority of time, it felt like was spent with Fish Mooney and Penguin and Falcone. Now, while one can argue that Penguin is the most interesting character on the show, at least he is in my opinion, there were a few issues with that story arc, which should have been really gripping, really game-changing. There were a few issues with it that I think held it back from greatness. First of all, when Fish Mooney blackmailed or tried to blackmail Falcone into leaving the city, he almost immediately agreed. He said, well, these young people want me to step aside, so maybe it's time I did. And at first I thought he was putting on an act. At first I thought he had some grand plan to take vengeance on the people who were trying to do this to him. But after a while I started to realize, oh my God, he is serious. And the thing is, I thought that was really insulting to what has essentially been established as this very overarching, very influential, very sharp character. Falcone, he's the big guy in charge of the mafia in Gotham. So the fact that he would so easily agree, even if it was for in the face of someone close to him being threatened, I find it hard to believe that he would agree so easily. We expect that kind of stupidity from Fish Mooney, who also behaved like a moron because she was dumb enough to believe that Falcone would agree, but the fact that he actually did agree and was actually going to go through with it before Penguin spoke to him is kind of insulting to his character. But because again, there's not really much you could do to make me believe that Fish Mooney is even dumber than they've already made her out to be. But again, the Penguin segments really shined in that episode and were definitely the high point. However, the second episode, unfortunately, Fish Mooney lived. Falcone took her alive for some reason to get pointlessly tortured. I don't know what was the point of torturing her because... Oh, by the way, the guy in charge of torturing her, Bob, he was played by Michael Eklund, who I'm sorry. Is He's a good actor, but he seems to be getting typecast in these types of roles because sure enough, if for a movie or a TV show, if you need some sadistic weirdo character, then you can be sure that they're probably going to get Michael Eklund. He Yeah, he's good at playing those kinds of roles, but the fact that I've seen him do it several times at this point, good God, I'd like to see the guy try something different. So, but they wasted him because Fish was able to escape with the help of Butch, which this episode had a lot of problems. Tonight's episode. First of all, again, Michael Eklund did not ask Fish Mooney any questions as to why she did what she did. So again, this torture, or this very light torture light, because this what he was doing, he was not exactly Theon Greyjoying her. He put a bag over her head at one point to sort of suffocate her, and he took it off, and he threatened to take one of her hands, he threatened to break one of her knees, but he never actually went through with it. So this was a very lightweight torture scene. I've seen more graphic stuff on CBS, frankly, but again, I digress. Not that I'm some sort of sicko looking for sadistic imagery in movies and TV shows, but for something like this, and for some, you got to admit you were probably expecting a little bit more out of this scene, at least a little bit more drama or something to make me believe that this torture scene or lack thereof had to be part of the story. Something to make me believe that Falcone wanted Fish Mooney alive for a reason. So there was that, and again, the fact that Fish Mooney was able to escape, and not only that, she was able to escape from Zaz. I hate her character so much. I just want her to die. And the fact that Butch was able to was really willing to put his life on the line for her, and how they essentially had to go on the run together for a short time, and it was supposed to be this really dramatic moment, or these few dramatic moments. I was just kind of sitting there like, boy, I wish the show had actually built up some sort of camaraderie between these two that extended beyond boss and henchman. But they didn't, so those moments fell flat, frankly. So once again, Fish Mooney's portions were some of the weaker portions of the episode. But Penguin had some of the more enjoyable stuff, because he finally got used to having his own club. He inherited Fish Mooney's club, and he brought his mother, played once again by Carol Kane, to the club, and he actually did a favor for Jim Gordon, and he was really living it up. There's this really cheesy montage where he's sort of going around the club and sliding along the bar, and yeah, it's cheesy and over the top and somewhat campy, but when it comes to a character like this who actually handles that type of material fairly well, I think it was well deserved. And for a character, again, who's probably the most interesting character on the show, it was very well deserved after the very natural progression that he has gone through. So there was that. And I have to admit, even though, again, going back to the pattern thing, even though, again, this formula at the Gotham City Police Department is getting kind of repetitive, Bullock and the captain tell Gordon not to do something, and then he goes and does it. That's basically been the formula for the entire series at this point. Even though that is getting a little repetitive, I'd be lying if I said that it wasn't interesting to see Gordon rely on some underhanded tactics to take Flash down. It's like he's finally adapting to the corrupt environment that he's in. So he gets Penguin to get some evidence against Flash, because he sees the widow of one of the victims crying. So he says, I can't do this. I mean, if I have to if I have to resort to underhanded means to achieve justice, then I will do that. But it has some unforeseen consequences when this cop from earlier in the episode comes up to him and thinks that Gordon has something on him. So Gordon having that sort of realization that, oh my God, I've become one of the people that I'm trying to fight against. So that actually was a fairly compelling moment, I thought. However, again, some of the characterization of the side characters, who I think, frankly, should be taken clean out of the show. First of all, Edward Nygma, who has gotten more and more annoying as the show has gone on. And he's one of the characters on this show who they seem to only think has one shtick. In that, oh, he's the Riddler, so we have him ask questions and riddles and stuff like that. And frankly, this type of character, this type of nerdy guy who helps out the police in that he performs autopsies, he determines the cause of death. I'm blanking on what they're called. Someone will tell me. I know what they're called, but I'm just blanking on it now because I'm tired. But this type of character has been done much better in other media, most notably, or at least most notably in my television experience, in the new Hawaii Five-0 TV series with the character of Max, Masi Oka's character. I just probably butchered his name, but that character is actually pretty likable and not really annoying, or at least not nearly as annoying as Edward Nygma. And watching Nygma awkwardly chase after this girl and subsequently is always rejected, it's getting, again, formulaic and also cringeworthy. And speaking of cringeworthy, Selena Kyle finally tells Bruce, I lied. I did not see the face of the guy who killed your parents, so stop harassing me. And Bruce is all crying by the fireplace, and Alfred kind of tries to prop him back up on his feet. So yeah. Again, I'm not behind the kid who's playing Bruce Wayne. Not just because I don't think Bruce Wayne should be in the show, but because I don't think this kid does a very good job. He just delivers all his lines very flatly and lifelessly, and yeah. But again, this scene was just rife with cliches, and I hate when movies and TV shows do this. This wasn't necessarily a fault of Gotham, well, kind of, because they chose to do it, but the very melodramatic scene where you find out one character has been lying, and it's this big sad moment, and I'm sorry, I just could not get behind it, especially with these two kids who really whose relationship I really could not get all that invested in, to be honest. They have not known each other nearly long enough to where oh my God, this very heartfelt relationship that they have, this very enduring friendship, really has not ascended past acquaintanceship, in my opinion. So yeah, those are just my thoughts on these past two episodes of Gotham. I swear to God, this show is getting worse and worse the more and more I watch it. If it does not do something to break the status quo, if it does not do something to really fix a lot of these issues, and I realize season one, they're still in the midst of season one, I realize there's very little they can do to actually improve the show, but maybe towards the end of season one, once we get closer to the finale, then I'll start getting invested again like I was in the beginning, and we can do away with a lot of these issues once season 2 rolls around. And with any luck, we won't be seeing nearly as much of Fish Mooney, so already that's a plus. But I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe just I have a problem with a lot of the elements on this show, or maybe I'm hitting the nail right on the head. I don't know, you tell me.